Sorry, you're muted.
All right, there we go. All technical difficulties are overridden. Welcome to the class formerly and currently known as Do Right by Your Shoulders and They Will Do Right by You. I am Lissa Mahalik. Please use she, her pronouns. This is my lovely assistant Napoleon Bonapartes. Please use he, him pronouns. And my other lovely assistant who is not visible but is also super lovely and awesome is Max. Please use Max pronouns. And everybody who's here, welcome to being here live. Everybody who is here in replay, welcome. I'm so happy to see you guys in replay. This effing rocks. And we are going to get going because otherwise I'm just going to sit here and gush at y'all, which is super exciting. However, we have important and exciting information to have here. I'm a little excited, and part of this is the reason that pretty soon we're going to start with a breathing exercise, and you're going to notice the change in my nervous system, and you'll probably notice the change in your nervous system too. All right, now while we're all here, let's do it's super awesome to see you guys. I'm really excited, and I'm so excited that I'm going to ask you to pause and just take a deep breath so that I remember to do the same. And I'm going to ask you guys to make space for yourself and for your learning right now. Make sure you are on mute if you are with us live. You guys are awesome. I will ask you to unmute if we need you to unmute if you've got questions. If you have a phone nearby, please put it on Do Not Disturb. I'm going to do that because I always forget, but no longer. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb, close your door, let people know that you are having shoulder time, damn it. And that's the thing. If you like to take notes on the computer, if you like to take notes with pen and pencil and paper and things, analog or digital, either way, have your note-taking gear prepped because I talk fast. I'm going to try to slow down because that's a more humane thing to do for everybody's brains, but I do have a tendency to speed up and go really, really fast, so I apologize and I'll do my best. But be ready because when the anatomical gems start dropping, it gets a little scattery. Questions, comments can go right in the Zoom chat. I will check in on those periodically to make sure I'm not missing anything. I will probably not have it on all the time because then I will get distracted and I'll be like, ooh, squirrel, shiny thing, and go off on a complete and utter tangent. I might have a tendency to do that. But there will be Q&A time at the end, so if I have not gotten to your question by the end, don't worry, I have blocked off time to make sure that we actually damn well do that. All right, prepare for a fire hose to the brain. I'm kind of known at having I am known for having a lot of info to share and flinging it indiscriminately at any human in my range. So this is going to be fun. All right, so what we're going to learn today. Here's the deal. Anybody can go and Google exercises for back pain, exercises for shoulder pain, exercises for whatever pain. But when you really understand why you're doing these exercises and what structures are involved and how they move, like essentially once you know why you're doing it and what you're doing it with, that's going to keep you motivated. It's going to keep you also doing the damn exercises correctly, because you can do all the exercises in the world, and if you're doing them wrong, they will not work. So if you've been doing exercises and they have not been working, they're either the wrong exercises or you've been doing them wrong. We can fix the doing them wrong, and hopefully we'll be able to fix the wrong exercise issue too. So we're going to look at some anatomical structures that often hurt. We're going to look at why they hurt, and we're going to know how we can know when they are correctly positioned for less hurt. So why you should listen to me. One, because I am a big nerd and I really like telling people about this stuff, and I'm going to sit here and talk your ear off, which is why we have a time limit, because otherwise I would just sit here for days. Why do I know this much stuff? Well, because I've been a movement efficiency freak since I was 15 when I started studying movement efficiency and exercise science. Because when you're learning how to whitewater kayak, when you have a good, efficient forward stroke, you can go paddling all day and have more fun. This is great motivation for a 15-year-old. Trust me on this one. I've been certified as a personal trainer since 2003, which is increasingly far back in the past. I've been going progressively deeper into anatomy, physiology, form, function, etc. ever since. I have all the letters. I'm still National Academy of Sports Medicine registered certified personal trainer. I still have a Pilates certification from the Kane School of Core Integration. I actually worked there as a teacher trainer for a while, and that's where I really got into teaching anatomy. I'm a registered somatic movement educator and therapist through the International Somatic Movement Therapist and Educators Association. I have personally dealt with back, shoulder, neck, wrist, knee, ankle, and foot pain. And that's just me. Anything that I personally haven't damaged, I've probably worked with in somebody else who has damaged it. So I have a little experience here. I've been there. I know what it's like. I know how to deal with pain both in myself and in other people. So hopefully that has convinced you that I actually know what I'm talking about. And if that hasn't, I'm just going to start firing information at you and we'll see if it lands. All right. So I promised you all a breathing exercise and we're going to go with that. We're going to start out. I'm going to adjust my camera here with my mad camera skills. What you're going to do is you're going to take your anatomy sensing tools that are here at the end of your hands. And however many hands you have, you are going to take one of them and place it on your gut. You're going to take another hand. You're going to place it on your heart. You're going to take a third hand and place it on the back of your skull. And any of these hands may be imaginary, as your digits and limbs so dictate. So hand on gut, hand on heart, hand on head. Distribute your hands however is most comfortable for you. What we're going to do is we're going to do a 3-part breath. That's going to bring us into the same space, physically, emotionally, mentally, etc. And it is also going to shift us from any sort of sympathetic, super excited, like fight or flight, reflex, action, and bring us down into parasympathetic, rest, digest, because when we are calmer, we are also more receptive to learning. So, gut, heart, head. We're going to do a 3-part inhale. 1/3 of that inhale is going to go into your gut. 1/3 of that inhale is going to go into your heart. 1/3 of that inhale is going into your head. 1/3 of your exhale comes from your gut. 1/3 of your exhale comes from your heart. 1/3 of your exhale comes from your head. Again, inhale, gut, heart, head. Exhale, gut, heart, head. I'm moving my hands around to illustrate. You can move your hands or you can keep them steady. It is entirely up to you. It is your damn body. Inhale, gut, heart, head. Exhale, gut, heart, head. One more time, gut, heart, head. Exhale, gut, heart, head. You might be feeling your system coming down a little bit. I know I certainly am. This is where I channel my mentor, Bony Cohen, and say, can you feel how the room has changed, even though the room is virtual? Now we're going to go a little bit deeper. So, bring your anatomy sensing tools to your gut here and let your awareness sink down past your hands, past your stomach muscles, past your gut itself, and into the space that is between your gut and your spine. And as you do this next inhale, you're going to inhale into that space between your gut and your spine and let it expand. And as you exhale, it's like water running out of a cave. You're just going to let the breath flow out, but without any holding or straining. Something about that space will remain. Inhale into the space behind your gut. As you exhale, remain spacious. One more time into the space behind your gut. Exhale and remain spacious. This is the space for your gut brain, where your instincts come from. Anatomy sensing tools to your heart. And let your awareness sink past your hands, past your skin, past your sternum, past your heart, the organ itself, and into the space that is behind your heart and in front of your spine. And then you're going to inhale there and expand that space. And as you exhale, like the water runs out of a cavern or the breath flows out of your body, some of that spaciousness remains. Inhaling again. Exhale, the spaciousness remains. No holding, just space. Third time's the charm, inhaling. Exhale, let the breath flow out. Then, bring your anatomy sensing tools to the back of your head, feeling that curve of your skull here. What you're going to do is when you inhale, you're going to feel the breath come up through your nose, behind your brain. You're going to fill that space between your brain and the inside curve of your skull with air. You are literally going to expand your mind right now. And as you exhale, let some of that spaciousness remain as the breath flows out. Inhale again. Exhale, the breath flows out. Third time, inhale. And exhale, the spaciousness remains. So now, again, redistribute your anatomy sensing tools, however feels good to you. And we're going to do that 3-part breath again, but this time we're going deep. So inhaling 1/3 behind the gut, 1/3 behind the heart, 1/3 behind the mind. Exhaling behind the gut, behind the heart, behind the mind. A couple more times. Inhaling behind the gut, behind the heart, behind the mind. Exhale behind the gut, behind the heart, behind the mind. Last time. Inhale gut, deep the heart, deep from the mind. Exhale, deep from the gut, deep from the heart, deep from the mind. Not only is this tricking you into taking a super slow inhale and exhale, but by looking at the gut and the heart and the mind, we're actually activating our polyvagal system just a little bit and letting our gut brains and our heart brains communicate with the head brain. So as a somatic movement therapist, it is more of a physical therapist and less of a mental therapist. But one of the things I like to say is there is no difference between the body and the mind, and there are no metaphors when it comes to the mind and the body. It is all real. So when we are opening our minds with those breaths, we are literally opening our damn minds. I'm going to try not to drop too many F-bombs today, but I might slip, so apologies to any kids who are listening. Just saying. All right, so part of that is to get us in touch with our bodies. Part of that is to bring the nervous system down. Notice how much more slowly I am speaking right now. That's part of it, actually. I will admit to you right now, that was part of it. So now I'm ready to teach, you're ready to learn. We're all in the same mind and body space. And we're going to talk about shoulders. The other thing is, when we're talking about shoulders, where are the shoulders? The shoulders are living right on top of the rib cage. What does the rib cage do? It helps us breathe. So when we are breathing well, our shoulders are that much happier. One little breathing exercise, so many results. Okay, so enough with polyvagal theory, on to the shoulders, which is actually a lot less complicated, sort of. The thing with shoulders is shoulders are really, really mobile. The shoulder is often considered a ball and socket joint, so you think, okay, a ball and a socket, great, that's very straightforward. A true ball and socket joint is a hip joint. A hip has a ball, it has a socket, it has a bleep ton of ligaments holding it in place. It is really hard to dislocate a hip unless you car accidents, bike accidents, high speed stuff. That is a ball and socket. A shoulder joint is a ball and a slightly dented quarter, which is why you will hear much more about dislocated shoulders than you will hear about dislocated hips. It's really easy to dislocate shoulders. In fact, I have a client recently who fell down the stairs and dislocated a shoulder. Yeah, that was fun. So where there is a lot of mobility, the difference is our shoulders, anybody can do this with a shoulder. It's really hard to do that with a hip. Most of us cannot do that with hips. Most of us can get pretty darn close to this with shoulders. The more mobility there is, the more options there are to mob wrong. So that's one of the things with shoulder joints. They're super mobile, that's awesome, but where there's mobility, there's the option to mob in the wrong direction. So shoulder pain can be caused by a lot of things. The basics, bad alignment, repetitive motion, or not using your full range of motion. All of these things, by the way, are happening a lot more since March of 2020. So these are things, yeah, I'm seeing some of y'all stretching your shoulders. Yes, do it. So we all need this a little bit more than we did 2 years ago, just saying, because we live in little boxes now. Yes, we do. But here's the thing, even if you've had traumatic injuries to the shoulder, instead of alignment and overuse and repetitive motion injuries, then you still need to know about good shoulder mechanics. So if your shoulders are sad for any reason, in fact, even if your shoulders aren't sad, this is a great way to keep your shoulders happy. Because when your shoulders move smoothly and well, then you can help prevent rotator cuff issues. You can prevent impingements, tendinopathies. You can improve all kinds of weird aches and pains and crunches. So yay, shoulder mechanics. Again, one little thing can accomplish a lot of other not so little things. I kind of talked myself into a corner there. The other thing about shoulder mechanics and shoulder joints is there's like 18 different freaking muscles that attach to the shoulder blade. So going into like, okay, well, wait, I'm going to really work on my rhomboids and my subscapularis. Okay, your rhomboids and your subscapularis probably do need some work, but it's a lot easier to deal with every last damn muscle when you're thinking about the way that the bones move. Bones are easy. There's only 206 of them in the entire body. And most of them are like wrist bones and finger bones and spine bones and ribs. Look at all these freaking ribs. So it's pretty easy to be like, okay, here's a shoulder blade. How is it moving? I'm going to show you how that shoulder blade is moving, and it's going to be awesome. Because then we don't have to worry about, oh, the upper trapezius and lower trapezius and the middle trapezius and then the subscapularis and then the scapularis, and it's just a giant pain. So as long as your bones are moving correctly, who cares about the muscles? So, bugger the muscles, let's talk bones. But now that I've said that, we're also going to talk about a few muscles. 3 muscles that I'm going to talk about later: supraspinatus, biceps brachii, and trapezius. These are really important, and you actually do need to know about those. But first off, we're going to talk about shoulder mechanics because this is cool. All right, so here is the thing with shoulder mechanics and essentially why rotator cuffs get damaged as often as they do. I'm sorry, that's a very bright light and I'm going to move it. I'm just going to step back. There we go. So, shoulder mechanics, how shoulders work. The reason that rotator cuffs and shoulders get mangled so easily is because, again, shoulders are complicated and we don't always move them quite the way we should. Excuse me, Bony, hope you don't mind, but it is getting warm in here. So here's the thing. This is a shoulder blade, aka scapula. This is what it looks like naked. You can find your scapula by taking your anatomy sensing tools. Put your hand on the top of your shoulder and just kind of walk it back down until you feel what essentially feels like an extra collarbone in back. So in front, yep, here's my collarbone. I go in back. Is it an extra collarbone? No, it is the spine of the scapula. Spine just means ridge as far as anatomy and Latin is concerned. So this is the spine here, that's a ridge. The spine of the scapula, that's another ridge. So if you put your fingers along the spine of your scapula and you move your arm up to about 90 degrees, you might feel a little bit of motion back there. Just a little bit on that shoulder blade. Whoa. Yes, it's supposed to do that. It is supposed to do that. Now, I'm going to ask you to notice the difference between up to 90 and above 90. Kind of go here, and then whoops. There's a little bit more motion. Here's the deal. Again, what the shoulder looks like naked here. Here is the shoulder blade, and here is the arm bone, the humerus, because we definitely find this humerus. When you lift your arm up to about 90 degrees, the shoulder blade doesn't actually have to move very much because you've got this little shelf up here that, it doesn't move much, and it doesn't really become an issue right until your arm gets to here. When your arm gets to here, if you're going to raise your arms any higher, and Bony can't because his shoulder blade is literally screwed to his ribs. I'm sorry, you're screwed. So if he is going to raise his arm any higher, this bone is going to bump right into this bone. And when bones bump together, bad things happen. So when we're talking about rotator cuff issues, then see this red piece of tape right here comes down here, and it also comes up here above the spine of the scapula. Now here's the thing. Now when you think about body part names, Latin and Greek body part names, it's essentially, I like to picture a bunch of anatomists sitting around a dissection table in the 1400s doing shots and naming stuff. It's like, what does this look like? I don't know. It's kind of round. It's got a round cross section. Awesome. We'll name it round cross section muscle. Yay! Oh wait, there's a big one. There's a small one. Okay, round cross section muscle major, round cross section muscle minor. Perfect. There we go. Yay! Shots. Sometimes you end up with round cross section muscle, which is teres, and unless you spend a lot of time in anatomy labs and slicing things up, you neither know nor care why the teres muscle is called teres, because it's got a round cross section. However, sometimes muscles are named for useful things like where they are. Remember earlier I mentioned the supraspinatus muscle. Now the supraspinatus muscle is superior to, when we're talking in anatomy, superior is towards the head, inferior is down towards the feet. And that is not a value judgment, it is just directional. So the muscle that is superior to the spine of the scapula is called the supraspinatus, which is actually kind of helpful. There is also an infraspinatus that's also part of the rotator cuff. We're not worrying about that one today. The supraspinatus is the one that's most often torn. Why is that? Because you can even feel it. If you go find the spine of your scapula, move your fingers up just a skosh, you will feel possibly a muscle, possibly a kind of a dip in here. But when you lift your arm just a little bit, you will feel a little muscle moving in there. That is your supraspinatus, and this is its job, just to start this motion. If you have a shoulder injury, go to your injured side and check it against your non-injured side. I will bet you a fair amount of money that supraspinatus is weenier on your injured side. I'm just saying. I have found that very, very, very often to be the case. So work your supraspinatus. It's really good for that injured shoulder. So above the spine of the scapula is the supraspinatus muscle. It comes down here and it comes under this little shelf, which is called the Acromion Process. I don't care if you remember that or not, but if you want to remember it, you can think about Acromion, acro. That's the same root as an acrobat or acropolis. It means the high point of the shoulders. You can imagine like your little Monopoly-sized temple just sitting up here. Because it is the high point of the shoulder. You can feel it yourself. If you feel your spine of your scapula out to the side, you may or may not have a fairly prominent flat place out here. I have really pointy Acromion processes, and if we were here in person, I'd be like, look, check it out. This is what it feels like. But since we're all virtual, you just got to check out your own Acromion process. Sorry. So, Acromion process. Right here, you can see that my fingers are underneath the Acromion process. They are following the line of the supraspinatus. I'm going to move my fingers now because bad things are going to happen to my fingers if I move this bone. And bad things happen to the supraspinatus when the shoulder blades don't rotate correctly. This is the major reason people tear their rotator cuffs, because the shoulder blade is not moving well. And so the bones bump together and the supraspinatus essentially gets grated like cheese. It is not cheese, it is a muscle. It does not like getting grated. So we try not to let that happen. How do we stop that? Well, we go back to the spine of the scapula, and hopefully, should you have a healthy shoulder, what's going to happen is most of the motion up to here is from the humerus. From here, most of the motion is going to be from the shoulder blade, and you can feel if you put your fingers wide along the spine of the scapula. Here's the lateral end. We're talking about anatomy. Lateral is like the lateral line of a shark here. Shout out to all the shark nerds in the house. Medial is towards the midline, towards the middle of the body. So lateral end, medial end. The medial end, you can actually push the medial end of your spine, the spine of your scapula down a little bit, and help your shoulder blade rotate, which can feel kind of awesome. Check it out on your other shoulder. Do you have a less able shoulder? A more complex shoulder? There we go. And you might notice a difference in your two shoulders if you have one shoulder that is more klooful than the other shoulder. So, one thing I realized I have not done is I actually want to go over the bones real quick just to make sure we're on the same page, and also because this is really fun. So, again, take your anatomy sensing tools and find your sternum, your breastbone right here. And you're going to put one finger on your breastbone and one finger on your collarbone. Just kind of feel where those two join. So maybe my thumb is here on my breastbone and my fingers are on my collarbone, sternum, scapula. You can call them either way. And if I'm just going to move this arm, can you feel your collarbone moving? That's because your collarbone is actually part of your shoulder girdle. And in fact, this joint right here, the sternoclavicular joint, is the only place on your entire spine that this entire arm chunk is attached to the rest of the skeleton. Bony has his shoulder blades screwed on. We just have those 18 flippin' muscles trying to hold the damn shoulder blade in place. So that's fun. And that's another reason that we have so many shoulder issues. Because, again, more mobility, more problems. All right. You can just go out your collarbone until you find your Acromion process. And if you want, you can put a couple fingers in your Acromion process and a thumb on your collarbone, and you can move your arm a little bit, and you'll notice that these two pieces are moving differently because there's a joint in there. This is your acromioclavicular joint. If you've ever had a separated shoulder or heard of separated shoulder, this is where it happens. So your collarbone attaches to your shoulder blade right here because your Acromion process, and you just wander right back out, is actually part of your shoulder blade. So that's two joints. We haven't even gotten to the ball and socket yet. I'm just saying. Going back to the Acromion process, you go down a little bit and you can find the head of the humerus because we found this humerus. Here it is, right here. And if you put your thumb on your Acromion process and your fingertips on your humeral head, you'll notice that, again, there's a difference because there is a joint in there. Now, the interesting thing about this is you'll notice that it's also, not super mobile, a little bit more mobile, ridiculously mobile. We get more mobile as we go out. Those three joints together is what brings us this amazing mobility. What it also means is if our chests are tight, if our necks are tight, then our shoulders are going to have less mobility because everything is literally connected. So, now, how do we deal with, so how do we get those shoulder blades to rotate? So, one of my other favorite illustrations. So here's the Acromion process here. In my hand is the Acromion process. Here is the humeral head, and here's the ball of the socket. Again, it comes up here, no big deal. Up to here, now this needs to swing up out of the way. Here's the spine of my scapula, see? Hand anatomy, super useful. So how do we get this thing to swing the way we want it to swing? Well, that's where we get the second of our awesome muscles today, and that is the trapezius muscle. The trapezius muscle is having its pansexual pride day today, so it is in 3 parts here. Because 1, it looks really cool and yay representation, and 2, we want to divide this into the upper, the middle, and the lower trapezius because each section of the trapezius can work really differently. The upper trapezius actually comes all the way up and attaches to the base of the skull. So it comes from the neck, then it comes down. Oh, look, it attaches to the Acromion process. It also attaches down to the spine of the scapula. In fact, you can't see the spine of the scapula on this side with Bony because it's covered with trapezius. That's why I only put up half of it, because this way I can show you guys the bones on this side. So normally it's trapezoidal shaped trapezius. Drunken anatomists must have come out of the fog for a moment and been like, it's a trapezoid! Dude, trapezius, drink! Trapezius muscle. So, half a trapezius. Upper trapezius here, middle trapezius, because it's the middle part, and lower trapezius, because it's the lower part. Again, up to the base of the skull, all the way. It actually attaches to all the neck vertebrae here, but there's only so much tape I can put on here without getting completely insane. All these vertebrae, it goes all the way down to the base of the rib cage. So from the base of the skull to the base of the rib cage, our entire upper body is literally connected to our shoulders, so positioning of the upper body gets kind of important. Just saying, because it's all literally attached. And I'm using literally here, not to mean figuratively. The other really important thing to notice about the upper trapezius is, yes, it comes from here down here. However, it also comes all the way down to the lateral third of the clavicle. So if you are trying to stretch your trapezius, yes, you can do this. You can do this and stretch it out, but you also need to, you can almost see the line of my trapezius right down here. The lighting isn't quite right for it, but you also need to do a little bit of rotation of the neck to really get the full three-dimensional effect of that. And now my neck feels like a banana, so I'm going to do the other side. Stretching, stretching. I'm sorry, a seedless abomination. Yeah. Here, and here. I am noticing we've got something in the chat. Check that real quick. Ha! An excellent comment here. The rotator cuff is definitive proof that intelligent design is not a real thing. I could also argue the same thing about knees and the digestive system, but I could also argue that they all worked perfectly fine before we decided to get really clever with the way we live. I don't know, man. Nature or nurture? But oh my goodness, rotator cuff. It's actually part of the reason the rotator cuff is so weird is that this acromion process, and what you can't see on Bony is there's a bleak ton of ligaments here that hold it in place. It's trying to balance the difference between stability and mobility because we were originally arboreal, like we came from the monkeys. And when, us being great apes, our bodies have evolved somewhere back there to climb a lot. So go out and go rock climbing. Your genes demand it. Just saying. All right, so trapezius. Oh yes, and I also wanted to talk about the biceps brachii because the other thing I'm seeing a lot is that pain right here in the front of your shoulder. And when you've got pain right here in the front of your shoulder, one, I am not qualified to diagnose anything. I bought this I walked into a store off the street and said oh look, it's a medical supply shop. I'm going to buy myself a white coat. It looks really cool. It makes me look very authoritative. However, I walked into a store off the street and I bought it. So I have all of my certifications, none of them qualify me to diagnose squat. So if you come to me with I've got pain in my shoulder right here, I'm going to say, I can't tell you what that is definitively. I am going to say you should go see your doctor. But I'm also going to say you should go see your doctor and you should absolutely ask about biceps tendonitis because that is exactly where the damn biceps tendon goes. And you may well have some biceps tendinopathy. I'm trying to change my language. Tendonitis has been inflammation of the tendon. That's been common parlance for a while. But lately, people are saying, well, it's not just inflammation. Sometimes it's tearing, sometimes it's other things. So tendinopathy just means something that's wrong with the dang tendon. When we have this nice orange muscle here, the biceps brachii, sticking well, biceps, two, seps, heads, brachii, the arm area, drunken anatomists. So when we have, so that means the two-headed muscle of the upper arm area. When we're looking at the biceps brachii, one of the heads comes from the front of the collar. This is a collarbone. This is a shoulder blade. The shoulder blade actually has this little finger that comes out here. Nerds in the house, I'm sorry, the house is all nerds. Hi, nerds. So this is the coracoid process. Comes this little little thingy right here. And that's where one of the biceps heads comes onto. And the other one is just the top of the shoulder socket, and it comes right through this little groove, the bicipital groove. So if you can find the ball of your humerus and you kind of rotate your elbow in and out a bit, you might feel that there's two bumps and a dip in the front, depending on how your shoulder is structured and how sensitive your fingers are feeling. That's not random. None of these bumps and ridges and anything are random. They're all muscle attachments or things like this. That's literally the groove for your biceps tendon. You've got your finger on the groove for your biceps tendon. And I hope that doesn't creep anybody out. It gets me really excited because bones! Anyhow, I'm better now. Just for reference, this comes down and it actually attaches not to your elbow, it attaches down here to your radius, one of your forearm bones. Yeah. This is a much more complicated muscle than most people think. And when you're doing your bicep curls, you're not usually exercising your biceps, you're actually exercising your brachialis, which is much more sensibly going from here to the ulna, which is a much more stable bone. But that's a different class. I just had to say that because it's one of my pet peeves. All right, so that's supraspinatus, trapezius, comes here, and all that big triangle on your back, and biceps brachii, not the big one in the biceps curls, but we talk about it like it is anyway. So you've gotten all those. I'm skipping through all of my visual slides because I've got Bony, because this is kind of awesome. So one of the things that you will notice is that lots of neck muscles are also shoulder muscles. We talked about the upper trapezius and how it goes from the head down to the spine of the scapula. The other muscle that, okay, I said I was going to talk about 3 muscles. I'm actually talking about 4, what can I say? And I might even drop a few more in because muscles. So everybody who has a pain in their shoulder right here, and if you massage, they're like, oh my God, that is so sore. So the spine of your scapula going medial and just above the medial end of the spine of your scapula, that, my friends, that is your levator scapula. Drunken anatomists. So levator, it lifts your shoulder blades. So if you put your fingers there and you lift your shoulder blades, you're like, oh yeah, that thing's tensing all over the place. Okay. Well, that's part of the reason it's so grouchy. The other reason that it's so grouchy is that most of us spend a lot of time online. And we're looking at things, and our heads end up like this. You know, code monkey get up, get coffee. Code monkey go to job. Code monkey sit at desk all day. And by the time he gets up for a meeting with boring manager Rob, the upper body is like this. It's like, okay, I'm good, I'm ready. When you are carrying your head in front of your body like this, one, all these muscles in the back of your neck, the upper trapezius, the levator scapula, all those muscles that hate us right now when we do that, they're basically hanging back there and going, no, don't fall off, head, don't fall off. And they get really tired and really grouchy. And since they can't talk, they can't say, hey, Lissa, could you bring your head back because we're getting really tired back here? All they can do is they can just stab us in the pain receptors. Oops. And the more we, the less we listen to them, and the more we're like, I'm just gonna ignore it, the harder they stab, and eventually we have problems. So one of the things about pain is when your body hurts, it's probably trying to tell you something. This is generally a lot smarter than this. Not going too much into that, but again, it's not metaphorical. When your body is really trying to tell you something, it's trying to tell you something. Okay, so what I'm also saying is shoulder position and head position and rib cage position can all absolutely affect what's going on in the shoulders because everything's connected. Again, upper trapezius. Oh gosh, all this tape is going all over the place. Upper trapezius, the head and the neck attached directly to the shoulder girdle, to the spine of the scapula and to the collarbone. Levator scapula, from the base of the skull out to the shoulder blade. So yeah, everything's stuck together, which is kind of a bummer. So what we do is we pay really good attention to the shoulder position, head position, and rib cage position. This is really important, and you can't see anything in this awesome white coat, but okay, so here's the thing. Most of us have been taught that, like, this is good posture. Lift your chest, throw your shoulders back. I am strong now. This is my power pose. No, if you go and look at that badass Linda Carter Wonder Woman, she is very square and very well organized. That is a power pose. And there is a reason that we use Wonder Woman as power pose, because her positioning in that famous photo, if you just Google Wonder Woman power pose, it comes right up. It's fabulous. Super square, super stable, very, very well organized. I don't know if you know the statue Fearless Girl. Love the statue, love the art, love everything behind it, hate the posture. Because what she is doing is she has her chest thrown forward and her hips thrown back and her knees hyperextended. This is not a stable position. This is not Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is here. You are not knocking her over. When you're trying so hard to push against something, you are knocking yourself off balance. It is not a metaphor, my friends. Not a metaphor. Just saying. So we're talking about the rib cage. We think, right, I'm gonna lift up so I don't slouch. Most people I deal with, it is a chest lifting issue that is causing them pain. It is not a slouching issue, which is hilarious because ever since 2003, back in the dawn of time, that I became a personal trainer, what you hear is, oh, everybody's slouching, everyone's got these collapsed chests, we need to lift the chest, lift the chest, lift the chest. We do not need to lift the chest, my friends. What we need to do is we need to take our sterni. Okay, who's a Latin nerd? What is the plural of sternum? I don't know. I've got to find out. So you take your sternum, and it's got this little pointy bit down at the bottom. You're gonna point that pointy bit, and we're all friends now, so find your hip points, find your pubic bone. You're gonna point your sternum at your pubic bone, and that is going to organize your ribs and your pelvis. And then in about 5 seconds, see what I just did there? You're gonna forget and you're gonna lift your chest and you're gonna, damn it, back down to the pubic bone, stay there. And you're gonna have to do that about 10,000 different times a day, but it is going to make a huge difference to your head, your neck, and your lower back. Really, seriously, this is a thing. The trouble is that not only is it really hard to maintain, but when we lift our heads, okay, so let's see, this is as good organization as I can get into. If I lift my chest, I'm looking at ceiling, so I'm gonna bring my head forward. And I can't really do anything, so let me see if I'm gonna do some stuff. Hydration, okay. And now, so my chest is up. If I bring my chest down, I don't change my head and shoulders. Now, my shoulders are forward and my head is forward because that's the only way I can function with that lifted chest. So from here, I now have to bring my shoulders back and bring my head back. That's the hard part. That is the hard part. And that's the one that just takes practice and practice and practice and practice. So when we're talking about how to organize your shoulder blades, I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. Okay, we have talked about shoulder blades, yes. So one way that you can sort your head out is you find your spine back here. Take one hand, take your anatomy sensing tools, and find your spine. Now what you're actually feeling is you're actually feeling the sticky outy bits in back, which in Latin is posterior spinous processes, literally things that stick out of the spine in back. And those are actually about 2 inches longer than your actual weight-bearing vertebrae. However, what you're going to do is you're just going to think about pressing those vertebrae back, and whatever bit is most forward, you're going to press that most back. And you're going to feel like you're walking around like this, but you're really not. You're absolutely not. And one of the ways you can tell is listen to my voice so right now my head is well organized, and the farther forward I get, can you hear how my voice starts to change in the sound of my voice? So now I actually sound kind of squashed right now and very nasal, but I'm going to find the biggest dip in my neck, and I'm going to press it back, and as I do that, you can hear how my voice gets louder, good Lord, and round tones. So you can sound better, you can breathe better, and you can feel better just by pressing your neck back just a little bit more than it is now. The other thing that is going to be super, super important and awesome is, okay, good, I'm running over the 50 minutes, but I'm still going to talk because we don't have a time limit here. So I'm going to go on for about 5, maybe 10 more minutes. I'm checking the chat. Sterna, thank you. See, I knew we had enough nerds in the house and someone was going to tell me. Okay, so happy, so happy. I love nerds. I mean, obviously I am a nerd, but it's just, nerds are good people. Okay. So, excuse me, Bony. All right, so exercises, yes. So what we're gonna do is having your shoulders relaxed. And you can do this standing or sitting or whatever. I like to do it standing because you can see my arms flopping around. So what I'm gonna do is like, here's when you're not doing anything with your shoulders, this is your baseline. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna raise your shoulders and just let them relax. Raise and drop. This one's pretty easy. I don't know. It's a pretty standard movement. It's a big movement. Oh, Levator scapula, we love you. Lift and drop and lift and drop. So the one, you get that sensation of release, and that's important. And two, a little exercise, that's never a bad thing, but you can also feel the way your shoulder blades can move. You can even take your hands and feel how they lift and lower, lift and lower. Maybe they're rotating. Go you. If they're rotating, that's awesome. If they're going straight up and down, then what you want is you want this bit to be going down and this bit to be coming up. It's actually kind of nice that it's doing that. Both sides. How exciting. Yay! Good shoulder mechanics. The next thing we're going to do is from neutral, we're going to press down and release. Press down and release. You're going to notice this is a much smaller movement. And it's also really hard to release. When you press down, your body wants to like lift as it comes up. It's going to take a little practice. As you press down, then you can just release into neutral without having to lift the shoulder blades to get there. Pressing down, release, pressing down, release, pressing down, release, and press down and release. Awesome. So now we're going to combine those two. We're going to skip the neutral all the way up and all the way down. All the way up and all the way down. All the way up and all the way down. All the way up and all the way down. So we've got the vertical pretty well under control here. Next, so up and down. The trick is that, again, my rib cage really isn't doing much. Now we're going to make things a little bit more interesting for the rib cage. You're going to take the shoulders and push them forward and release. Forward and release. Forward, release, forward, release. It's really easy to start doing this. Don't do that. It's move less. Here's the other thing, and I probably should have said this up front. I am hypermobile. Things I can do are not necessarily things that you can do, and probably not things that you should do even if you can. This has been a public service announcement. However, it makes it really great for demonstrating, just saying. So rib cage is stable, shoulders go forward and back. Again, if your shoulders are not moving as much as mine are, no worries. If they are, you're probably okay. Forward and release, forward and release. Now, squeeze them together and release. And try not to do this. Squeezing the shoulder blades together and release. It's so hard. You can see my chest wants to lift when I do this. Chest down. Sternum, pubic bone. Sterni to pubic bones. Sternum to pubic bones, sorry. Squeeze, release, squeeze, release, squeeze, release, squeeze, release. The other thing that's really easy to do when you're doing this is to bring your shoulder blades up and back. Don't do that. Even if you're moving less, just bring them straight across and together. Squeeze, release, squeeze, release, squeeze, release, squeeze, and release. You know where we're going next? All the way back, all the way forward, all the way back. Take it a little slow so you don't wobble your rib cage in there. All the way back, all the way forward, 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 back and forth. Now comes the fun part. So, shoulders, they're going to go up and together and down and apart. We're going to make a box with the damn things. Up, together, down, apart, up, together, down, apart, up, watch the rib cage, down, apart. Make a smaller box and keep your rib cage more stable. This is what it looks like from the side. Watch the rib cage. Is it moving? God, I hope not. Up, together, down, apart, and up, together, down, apart. Reverse. Together, up, out, down, together, up, out, down, together, up, out, down, together, up, out, down. You may find that your shoulders and your back are really sore after this. That's actually okay. In fact, it's a good sign in general because it means that you've worked these muscles that needed working. So the more often you do that, if you're finding yourself like making triangles or ellipsoids or whatever weird shape that's like, that's not a square and I can't get it to make a square, dang it, that's okay. Practice makes squares. And the more you practice being able to articulate your shoulder blades, the easier it will be to do things like let your shoulder blades swing properly as you go up. So just checking in with the spine of your scapula, raise it up to here, all the way up, here and down, here and up, here and down. Does it feel different at all from the first time you did that? I don't know, it's your body. That's the other thing about somatics. Your experience in your body is the baseline. That is what is the most important thing. Best thing about that is it means that even if you are not feeling anything of what I'm saying, whatever you are feeling in your body is true and real. And if anybody says otherwise, they are wrong. There is no fake news in the body. Whatever you are experiencing in your body is the truth, which is pretty freaking awesome. What can I say? All right, let's see. So now, my friends, you know the key muscles and the tendons that get hurt in the shoulder. Well, I didn't mention tendons, but oh, no, I did. I mentioned the biceps tendon, which is okay. So I mentioned muscles and tendons that get hurt and that you should know to keep your shoulders well organized. I've talked about how the mechanics of the shoulder blades can work to help or to hurt those structures. You know how to check your own shoulder mechanics now, which is pretty awesome. You know, look under the hood, see how it works. It's like learning to change your own oil, but much less messy. So now you can use that info to refine and improve any sort of shoulder care routine you have. Because once you've had a shoulder injury, you need to be doing exercises for life. Trust me on this one. Yeah, so I do PT exercises all the time because I actually popped my shoulder slightly out of the socket at one point and left it there for 2 years. Amazing what you can do when you're young and stupid. Anyhow. All right. Thank you guys so much for being here. Oh, yep, we got some snap, crackle, pop with almost every movement. And here's actually, now it's Q&A time. If you have questions, bung them in the chat, because otherwise I'm just gonna go off on exciting things. The snap, crackle, pop, as long as it doesn't hurt, don't worry about it too much. What it is basically your body wants to, we have, the joints have evolved for movement, but our body has basically evolved to be like, oh no, we're just gonna curl in and nest and not move. If you've heard the term fascia, fascia is essentially, when you open up an orange, it's all that white stuff that holds an orange together, and it's actually almost exactly what real live fascia real dead fascia, I've only seen it in cadavers, looks like in the body. And it's about what it does. It forms the body, it forms a shape, it makes connections, and those little white fibers are basically being laid down all the time. And if we don't move, those little white fibers are gonna bind us into whatever position we like to hang out with. Beware, desk monkeys, because all those little white fibers can get you stuck like this, and then it's a much harder proposition to unstick yourself. So sometimes a lot of the snap, crackle, pop is all that stuff loosening up and changing and mixing around, like, oh, that ligament was there and now it's going here, and oh, that's much better. As long as it doesn't hurt, that's great. If it does hurt, get that bugger checked out, because that's when it could be an overuse injury, it could be a bursitis, it could be a tendinopathy, it could be any number of things. But generally, again, your body can only just stab you in the pain receptors every time something's going wrong. So if your body is stabbing you in the pain receptors, See if you can figure out why it's doing that, just so you can stop. Your body will be so much happier. It's like your body is not trying to be mean to you. It's just saying like, help, stop doing that. All right, fine. Like you realize that telling me to stop holding my pelvis in that position is really hard, spine? Jeez. Anyhow. All right. Anybody got anything else to jump in here with? But I am exceedingly happy to see you guys here. And I'm exceedingly happy to see all of you guys in replay. Hugs! But only if you want hugs. Asking about hugs. Okay. And, you know, because respecting personal boundaries, especially after we haven't been hugging anybody for a year, just saying. All right. Thank you guys all for being here. Questions, comments, etc. If you do not have them at the moment, you can always email me. I am lissa@somaticanatomy.com, or you can just Google somatic anatomy and you will find me out there. Yeah, email me, Instagram me. You can tweet me, although in all honesty, my tweets are mostly like snarky political obnoxiousness, so it's not really a business account. So it has been a super pleasure hanging out with all of you guys this evening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for not being here and watching this in replay. And all the warm fuzzies, you guys.